The Stockholm subway is pretty amazing. It's full of gorgeous art and it's a quick and efficient way to get around in Stockholm. Well, you'd better enjoy it while you can because things are changing and the Stockholm subway might be doomed. Since 2009, the company MTR have been operating the Stockholm subway, and there's been a fair bit of complaining about that. But things are changing in 2025. Recently, there's been a public procurement process to determine who will operate the subway as of next year. It's a deal worth more than 40 billion Swedish kronor, more than 4 billion euros. At first glance, this doesn't sound all that strange. Operators change all the time as new companies emerge to offer better or cheaper services. 4 different companies offered bids for how to operate the subway, and one of those companies won. That sounds pretty standard, doesn't it? It's business as usual. Well, maybe not. The company that won is called Connecting Stockholm, and there are some worrying signs about them. And there are also questions about whether or not the procurement process was handled correctly, and if Sweden is as free from corruption as we like to think. A couple of years ago, I made a video about the subway yard in Stockholm, and I'm happy that I get an excuse to return and show off more of it. I just wish that I had a better reason for making this video. Instead of focusing on all of this fascinating art, I'm gonna focus on the operations of the subway. And there's a lot to talk about when it comes to how the Stockholm subway is operated. First of all, I need to mention that MTR, the ones operating the subway right now, aren't exactly doing a stellar job. But I guess you figured as much. There's been a lot of problems with the subway, especially now in 2024. The Stockholm subway has 3 lines, the red line, the green line and the blue line. The green line is the oldest, and parts of it opened in 1950. It runs roughly from the southeast to the northwest of Stockholm. The second oldest is the red line that runs from the southwest to the northeast. And then you have the blue line, this line, that runs from the center of the city to the north. And the blue line in particular has been suffering during 2024. Early June, the entire blue line stood still because they noticed damages on all the subway cars. A faulty train switch had damaged every single car on the blue line, so they all had to be repaired. Subway cars were borrowed from the red line, so that of course caused even more chaos and delays on that line as well. Around 150,000 people travel on just the blue line every day, so this incident affected hundreds of thousands of people. But that wasn't the only problem during 2024. Oh no. There's been faulty subway cars on the red line, there's been even more train switch problems, and of course there's been a lot of other cancellations and delays too. And let's not talk about the commuter trains, because those run into trouble every autumn and winter. Oh no, there's leaves on the track, better stop the trains. Oh no, there's snow in Sweden, better stop the trains, and so on. The subway isn't perfect, far from it, but it is a very convenient way to get around in Stockholm. And it's apparently very loud too. It's fast and efficient when it's running properly, and you can get to most parts of the city with a single subway ride. MTR isn't doing a great job, but they have kept the trains running. Sort of. But I guess that I should mention that some people have been very upset at MTR, especially train drivers. During 2023, the commuter train drivers in Stockholm were unhappy with their working conditions. Standard practice was that each train had one driver and one other staff member who could deal with any issues that might occur. MTR decided to cut costs and get rid of that additional staff member on each train, so the driver had to handle any unforeseen issues that might occur, for example with unruly people. The drivers felt that this was an unrealistic expectation and that it led to a more hazardous working environment. So in April 2023, they went on a wild strike, something that's quite uncommon in Sweden. MTR refused to negotiate and also threatened to take legal action against the drivers. The strike ended after 3 days, and in the end MTR backed down from the legal threats, but they still refused to improve working conditions for the drivers. So as you can tell, people aren't super happy with MTR. But the problem is that things might get a lot worse in 2025. Let's talk about a company that won the procurement process to operate Stockholm subway in 2025. It's a company called Connecting Stockholm, but that's not the full story. Getting the operating rights for the Stockholm subway was one of the biggest public procurement processes in the world. It's worth more than 40 billion Swedish kronor, which is a lot of money. But the company that won isn't an old established operator, it's a completely newly started company. And that company is in turn owned by a British company called Goahead. They own 55% of Connecting Stockholm shares. Ever since the 1990s, Goahead has been operating several railway lines in the UK. And there have been a lot of problems with those railways. In 2016, 60,000 trains were cancelled due to massive staff conflicts, as well as train track damages. Wait a second, that sounds eerily similar to the problems MTR have been having in Stockholm, except on a much bigger scale. But there's more. In 2018, 10,000 Goahead trains were cancelled or delayed again, which caused massive problems for the UK train traffic for a long time. And in 2021, Goahead was forced to pay 360 million Swedish kronor due to tax fraud. The British government stepped in and nationalized parts of Goahead because of that. So while the Swedish people have been unhappy with MTR, the British people have been even more unhappy with Goahead. And Goahead is now the majority owner of Connecting Stockholm, who will be operating the Stockholm subway as of 2025. So what does Connecting Stockholm have to say about the Goahead failures in the UK? Well, according to them, all of the Goahead debacles in the UK were isolated incidents, and they're all handled and dealt with. I'm not sure about you, but 2021 doesn't seem all that long ago to me. They also claim that those incidents happened in the UK and thus have no relevance when talking about Swedish operations. So they're saying that things will be much better when they enter a completely new country that they're unfamiliar with. Again, I'm not sure about you, but to me that doesn't sound all that reassuring. In fact, I have a very bad feeling about 2025. There's been a lot of secrecy about the whole procurement process. No one knows what the winning bid was and what exactly the winning criteria were. We know that MTR lost and they have no plans on appealing the decision. However, another company that lost was Keolis, and they have issued a lot of complaints against the Stockholm Council. There were 4 participating companies, and 3 of them, one of which was Keolis, were disqualified for not fulfilling the requirements. Even though I don't think that those requirements were made public. And while it does make sense to disqualify unqualified companies, does it really make sense to simply pick the one that didn't fail miserably? I'm just speculating here, but maybe the reason that Connecting Stockholm didn't fail those requirements is because it's a completely new company that hasn't had time to show its ineptitude yet. The Stockholm Council has stated that there were reasons for their secrecy surrounding the whole process, but as far as I know, they haven't actually explained what any of those reasons were. It's a very big business deal, and there seems to be a lot of smoke and mirrors going around. I'm not saying that there's foul play and corruption involved, but I'm not saying that there isn't. I don't have all the details about the Stockholm subway deal. In fact, I have almost no details at all. But I know that there's a lot of money involved, and that doesn't usually bring out the most honest and decent people. Maybe my fears are unfounded, and everything will go smoothly in 2025 when Connecting Stockholm starts operating the subway. Or maybe it will fail miserably within a year from now, even more miserably than when MTR are running things. The future is a blank slate and none of us knows for sure. But given how Goahead operated in the UK, I think we're in for a shock. The only positive thing is that no matter how badly the subway is run, you can still admire the fantastic subway art in Stockholm. That might be a small comfort if you're facing huge delays or if your train is suddenly cancelled. But at least it's better than nothing. And that's about it. That was a video about how Stockholm subway might be doomed in 2025. I hope you found it interesting. Like and subscribe, but most importantly, have a great day.